All right, welcome back to Month of Horrors. This is George with the Movie Cellar. For my first movie for Month of Horrors, I watched the 2013 Battle of the Undead, or it's also titled Cannon Fodder. So apparently, this movie has two different names, but it's the exact same movie. I don't really understand why. But the film, I just learned about this. Watching the film was terrible. Terrible movie. Not fun to watch. Boring. Not scary in any way, not fun in any way. But learning about the movie was actually really exciting. I found out that it was a student film. It was made as a thesis, not report because it's a film. It was a thesis film for a director and producer combo, and it was made on a super low budget. It was made with a bunch of important people. It was made in Israel, based in Lebanon. It's all about the conflict that's going on in that part of the world right now. They talk about Hezbollah a lot, and then zombies. So Hezbollah and zombies, and if that's not enough information about what the movie is, then you can go watch all 93 minutes of it. It's a very short movie. It felt short. It's not one of those short movies that feels normal or long. It felt fast. But it's got some really cool things. It won 3 awards, festival awards, not, big awards, but it won 3 awards. It's the first horror movie to ever be funded by the Israeli Movie Guild people. It was, to be able to get one of those awards for the special effects, it had to have people from multiple countries do the effects. So the practical effects were done by a guy from Canada, a guy from the US, and a guy from Israel. And that's like the biggest budget part of the movie right there. They won the award for the effects, and they actually have the record in Israel for the most special effects shots in a movie at 350. So, I mean, the makeup and special effects. Okay, the makeup and the practical special effects were the best part of the movie. For gore in a zombie film, I mean, it was pretty standard, but pretty standard for a decent zombie film, not for a crap zombie film. For anything that was added post, they added some flames, they added some explosions, they added some flies around the dead bodies, things like that stood out like a sore thumb. Terrible. A high school kid would have done better. I don't understand how they did it so bad, but the practical effects were fantastic. The script was terrible, but part of that might be because it was dubbed into English. It seemed like it was Americanized. So because it's an Israeli film, I don't really know if the script was as terrible or if it was just rushed into English. But it was bad. I mean, unnecessary racism, unnecessary misogynistic attitudes, terrible uses of American slang just not being used properly. If you think about like the t-shirts that are made overseas in non-English speaking countries that just, write the word fuck or something like that because they don't know. It's kind of that bad script-wise. The acting is not good at all, which really had me down on the movie. But after researching it, finding out that it was a student film and finding out about how they made the movie, it makes me respect it a lot more because it was made by these people that don't have a budget and, don't have the support of a lot of cast people. So it had, the 3 main soldier actors in the movie were actually real soldiers in Israel. So that lent a lot of, authenticity to the way that they, sort of talked to each other or moved while they were walking through the trees or while they were trying to protect themselves in an old house while the zombies attacked. So that led some authenticity. Authenticity. But the acting was just not. It just wasn't good. The music, interesting, was terrible. It was terrible. I hated the music. But it was an interesting approach. They had over 30 different musicians involved including one of the guitarists for Guns N' Roses, not Slash, the other guy, Bumblefoot. I don't know. But it had a lot of like Israeli heavy metal bands that did covers of songs. They covered the two most popular pop songs in Israel at the time, and made them heavier. They wrote a bunch of songs specifically for the movie. They had roles that were written specifically for friends of the director. The director and the producer each made multiple cameos as different zombies throughout the movie. They really put their all into doing as much as they could with as little as they could. So I have to give them credit for that. They tried so hard. So if you look at it as a student film and not compare it to a big name film, then they did a great job, and they should be super proud of what they did, and this movie will open doors for them. I'm sure it has. This was 2013, so I'm sure it's opened doors for some of these people because of how much work they put into it. But if you compare it to something made in America with a bigger budget, with a bigger studio, with more backing, instead of being the first film backed by the Israeli Film Guild, if you had some real backing and some real power names behind it, it could have gone farther. The story is basically zombies attack, so it's full of tropes. So the main character, he's getting out of the army. He's said he's done. He's getting married, and last minute, he gets called to do one last military thing, and then he can be out. But his commanding officer is really just playing him and tells him he's signing like an NDA, but he ends up signing up for another couple of years. But that doesn't happen, because zombies attack. So, it's got that last minute, last stand type thing for the soldier. It has the commanding officer that's a jerk. It has the way the zombies come into the movie is they are technically a failed biochemical weapon experiment done by some people that were pretending to be Hezbollah but really worked for the Israeli army. It was kind of muddled and confused. But yeah, so they've got that. They didn't add any of the science type stuff in the scenes. Like, you don't see any of that stuff, but they talk about it. They did a pretty good job giving you backstory without actually having to show you those things. So even though it was muddled, it really added a lot of depth that wouldn't have been there if they didn't add those details. One really interesting thing about this movie, the one thing that sets it apart from other zombie movies, is that the zombies also ate other zombies. There's a sort of the siege moment where the zombies are attacking the house that the soldiers are holed up in, and we've already seen a zombie or two, but this, there's just waves of zombies attacking them. Pretty common, right? But they don't get any of the people, and so in the morning, when the people are trying to leave, they actually get to sneak by zombies because the zombies are busy eating other zombies. Like, they've ripped one apart and they're sharing a zombie for breakfast. And I, off the top of my head, I can't think of another zombie movie that the zombies eat each other. That was interesting. Later on in the movie, there's a scene where, they peek around a corner into this small room, a place that they feel like they have to go, and there's probably 30 zombies, and they're sitting down calmly together. It almost looks like, it almost looks like it's a crack house or something. Like, they've got like mattresses on the floor for these zombies and people laid out, and they're eating a dead zombie together, and they don't notice the humans at all. So that was kind of an interesting scene. But the cool thing about that scene is that it had the most gore of any other scene, because it was extended shots on the zombies. It wasn't just them walking by or them quickly ripping an arm off. It was a lot of them eating and tearing up a body, and then the soldiers end up shooting them all. So you get a pretty graphic view of all these zombies getting slaughtered. So the special effects in that one scene were fantastic. I read that they used over 40 gallons of fake blood for this movie, that on original filming, they averaged 30 different sets a day, and then when they did some reshooting and extra shooting later on, it averaged 35 sets a day. And that sounds intense. Like, that must have been an all-day thing. But, for budget, they filmed it all, like, in Israel. It's set in Lebanon, but they filmed it all in Israel. They had a top Israeli news anchor as one of the actors, which I thought was interesting, because that brought, like, people wanted to watch it in India because of that. So they sort of had those little touches that made it feel like, if I lived in Israel, this would be really exciting to go see this for those things. I'd know the film program, and I'd know the film guild, and I'd know the news anchor. That would be fun. If I saw, like, Tom Brokaw in a zombie movie, I'd go watch that. I don't care if it was bad or not. So, that's interesting. The end of the movie, it's the same as every other zombie movie. They've got to get away. They're going to get on this boat. The main soldier is the big hero, and the soldiers that don't talk as much are slowly dying off, and one of them gets left behind because he's too injured to keep running, and they give him guns. And normally, when you leave a soldier behind in a movie, or you leave anyone behind in a movie and you give them guns, it's so that they can shoot people coming after you, or in this case, to shoot zombies coming after you. But he doesn't. He sits there holding the guns and waits for the zombies to come, and then they just eat him. He doesn't fight back at all. And that was probably the most appalling, oversight of the entire movie. Was just, that's such an easy scene. If you're going to have tropes of zombies and have it be a really basic zombie movie, you got to have that. So that was a big fail. So they get to the beach, right? And they can see the main character soldier's yacht is floating just off the coast, and his brand new wife is supposed to be waiting for him. And he said he was only going to be gone for 48 hours, and he's been gone for 3 days, and he's like, oh, she's going to be pissed. We got to get back to her, because that's more important than the zombies. But they get to the beach, and the beach is covered with zombies. Just a swarm. There's probably 200 zombies on the beach, but only in the place that's right there. Like, you can see the edge on every side of the scene, and there's no zombies. Like, they're all crowded into this one little spot on the beach. So I feel like that's another oversight. The cameraman could have just zoomed in a couple of extra feet, and it would have looked like it was a never-ending crowd, which probably would have been cooler. But yeah, so, the hero and the one last soldier that has just admitted he's been bitten, and the girl that they had to rescue / kidnap, that's all that's left. So the main soldier, the soldier that's been bitten that just admitted that, and the girl, right? So they all have their guns, and they just storm right in, and they're shooting and shooting and shooting. And the soldier that has been bitten, he stays behind, and he's shooting bad guys, and he's got a bomb. And so he sets the bomb so that when he runs out of bullets, the zombies get close, and he just blows himself up with the zombies. Very, very appropriate for a zombie movie. So the main guy and the girl, they get on their boat. They're like little dinghy, and they get out to the yacht, and they see the wife is tied to a chair. And the commanding officer, who has been bitten by a zombie, is holding her hostage because he needs the girl that the soldier rescued to help make a vaccine, or he thinks that she can help make a vaccine. So through different things, the soldier hero wins the day, and the commanding officer gets thrown into the ocean, and he's hugging his wife, and you think it's the end of the movie, and he's hugging his wife, and now he's got to explain this other girl, and he leans in to give his wife a kiss and notices she's been bit on the neck, and then done. That's the end of the movie. So, you know, very classic, very simple zombie movie. Not a lot is different. Nothing that really stands out besides the fact that the zombies eat each other. And the script is terrible, and the camera work is terrible, and the post effects are terrible, and the music is terrible. But after researching it, I have a lot more respect for it. So, I mean, that's going to earn it some points. So if I had to rate it out of 10, I'm going to give it a 2.5. But it was going to get a 1. And then I researched it. So, I mean, I know that's not giving it much. But I'm used to bigger budget movies. I'm used to movies that have, you know, a little bit more originality. I mean, obviously not all movies. There's a lot of bad movies. But yeah, I'm going to give it a 2.5. It's metal moment. I gotta say, does it have a metal moment? I don't know if it has a metal moment. Yes, it has a metal moment. So one of the soldiers, you know, the soldier that doesn't talk as much, he's the first one to die. He is turning into a zombie, but super slow. Like, it takes a whole night, and he's groaning, and you can see he's in a lot of pain. And you know, the woman that the soldiers are there to get is like, "Oh, you got to shoot him. You got to shoot him in the head. It's the only thing to stop him." And they're like, "No, we don't shoot our own." And then he finally turns, and he gets shot in the head, and all you see is the gun, and you think it's the girl. You think that the girl shot him, but it's not. It's the lead soldier, the hero soldier, who saves the day and is the bad guy when needed to be. So that's the metal moment, you know, because he's the hero, so he kicks in and he's the hero. Anything else to say for this movie? No. Waste your time watching it? No. If you are into foreign films, there's way better. If you're into zombie films, there's way better. If you're into student films, I don't know student films. I don't know if there's better, but I'm assuming there's better. So that's it. So stay tuned for more Month of Horror movies, one a night for the whole month, and hope you like it. Bye.